Hi everyone, I want to walk through the survey and data report assignment sheet and just kind of explain and elaborate on what you're finding in this assignment sheet. This assignment sheet is very long and detailed. It is 5 pages. I try to give you as much specific and direct information within this assignment sheet as possible because I think that there are a lot of different working pieces to this assignment. I think it's important to know how to create surveys so that you can get feedback, whether that's feedback on how a product is doing, feedback on how your employees are doing, feedback on your job, whatever it is. Feedback helps you make sense of how things are going, how things can change, what needs to be improved, a response to something. In this case, surveys and getting feedback can give you data information to collect to just better understand the nature of things. Really great surveys that provide genuine, authentic, as unbiased as possible reporting information are so helpful to process the world, different things. There are absolutely very biased surveys that exist that are going to give very biased results. Data is not purely 100% objective. Reporting on data is not purely 100% objective. And surveys and studies and things that give you quantitative data should always be questioned for the validity of the results, because sometimes surveys and data and numerical information can be skewed, whether that was from the original survey skewing it or whether that was from unethical research practices. So it's just really, really important for work, for being a citizen, to recognize good survey writing, good data reporting, things that are objective, things that are subjective, and everything within kind of that wheelhouse of how research is presented to the public, whether you're doing the research and presenting it or whether you are the public reading others' research. All right, so some really quick assignment notes here before I dive into like what we're doing. For our last assignment of this semester, which is not the one I'm going over now, we'll have one more after this. I will ask you to collect data. You don't have to do your own survey. I'll ask you to do research, and I'll ask you to write a longer, more formal report. So keeping that in mind, you might decide that the topic you pick for your current survey and data report is going to be the topic for your final assignment, so that you're kind of in the same mindset. You can use this to go ahead and collect some of your own primary research. And I think that could always help you have to do less in the future, or at least kind of you can use this assignment to get you started on your final assignment. That's not a requirement. I will never go back and say, are these two things connected? They don't have to be, but just keep that in mind. Just another quick reminder, this assignment is not connected to our collaborative technical documents. This is an individual assignment, and it's just not part of the other one at all. Now, if you want to pick the same topic that you're working on for the collaborative technical documents, that's also fine. I find that topic creation, coming up with a topic, is the hardest part of most assignments, because it's like the Netflix dilemma. There's so much to pick from. How do I pick something? Okay, so for this assignment, you're going to select a topic of your choice. This can be anything, and I'm going to talk about that in just a second. Create a 10-question survey, administer this survey, collect the results, and aggregate and report on your findings. The survey and data report will be mostly objective reporting. Here's what I learned from my survey, and then 10% subjective interpretation. 80-20 is probably fine as well. You'll submit basically a 3-page, maybe a little bit more document. It will be a cover page in APA format, the data report that you write, that's 1 page, and then a copy of your blank survey. You do not have to submit the responses to that survey because, let's be honest, I'm not going to look at them. So coming up with a topic, that's the first thing that you need to do. Pick something that's manageable. You're administering this survey yourself, and that means you need to be thinking about the scope of your reach. So if you know that you're only going to be able to reach like 40 people to take this survey, then you probably don't want to research a topic that is extremely broad, because you're probably only going to get a microcosm look at what the perspective is on that topic. That just kind of thinking about how to approach your topic and considering who you have access to. If you're like heavy on social media, maybe you want to think about, well, maybe you're involved in a certain social media group or a community on social media, and you can survey people there. And so that might change how you come up with your topic and what interests you. So keep that in mind. Who are you surveying? Friends, family, social media, followers, an email group, former classmates. Some things that you can also include is you can share your survey with me and I will send it out to people that I know as well. I will also be sharing surveys with the class so that your classmates can get involved if you want me to do that too. You can research and report on anything that's interesting to you. I don't have any off-limits topics. I think that whatever you want to research and report is fine. So some interest areas to consider: is there something that relates to your current profession or your desired profession that you would like to know more about? Is there something that is, involving in your home life that you would want to survey people on? Culture, hobbies, school. Some other examples: student perspectives on group work, perspectives on discussing politics at work, home and interior design preferences. I was just coming up with random things here, y'all. Average consumer spending on food and drink, activities during quarantine. So I think that a lot of these are very manageable. You have these real big topics. I would stay away from those. You don't have to, but you might consider it, because the bigger the topic, the more varied the perspectives on that topic are going to be, and the more people you would need to survey in order to get a really solid response rate that's going to accurately reflect these different possibilities. So once you pick your topic, you want to create your survey. I'm trying to give you guys some very specific guidelines here so that you know what's expected and you don't feel like I'm just throwing you to the wolves with like, oh, create a survey, give it out and come back with results. Here's what I want you to do. So I want you to have 10 questions on your survey. If you want to have more, that's fine. But 8 of those questions need to be close-ended questions. That means that the questions should not be like open squares where people can just type whatever they want. They should be, how many times per week do you purchase food from somewhere other than a grocery store? And you provide the answer options, right? There's close-ended. They cannot add any other information. They pick one, right? Make sure that your close-ended questions answer choices don't overlap. So for example, how many times do you purchase food somewhere other than the grocery store? You would never want to say 1 to 5 times as an option and then below it 5 to 10 times, because what if someone purchases food from the grocery store 5 times? Do they pick the 1 to 5 times per week, or do they pick the 5 to 10 times per week? So you want to make sure there's no overlap in your close-ended question. So I want 8 of those, 8 close-ended questions. Now, something that I'm kind of skipping down here, up to 3 of your close-ended questions may request demographic information if you think it will be helpful for your research. So if you're researching like makeup and you find that gender or sexual orientation is a factor into makeup trends, then you might decide to ask that demographic question, and you want to make sure that you provide options and maybe provide another so that you aren't presumptuous in your demographic questions. But up to 3 of those can be demographic questions if you think that it would be helpful to know or relevant to know. Most survey surveys ask demographic questions, and most people who write on survey theory in terms of what is the most effective type of survey to give you excellent results and information that you can process says demographic questions are absolutely a necessary component of a survey. So it's perfectly fine if you want to ask those types of questions, just no more than 3. Now, I'm also requiring, and so I'm jumping back up here, that 2 of your questions are open-ended and also that they're required. And that is okay because someone could just write not applicable in the box. So just make sure that you suggest to whoever's taking your survey that, you know, they have to answer all the questions, even if they put like no answer. Open-ended questions give us more of that qualitative data. And I have a little video in Blackboard this week that very quickly in a 5-minute crash course gives you the difference between quantitative, which is numerical, versus qualitative, which is more of like adjectives and descriptive words and feelings and things like that about whatever you're surveying. But these give you that qualitative information, and they allow you to continue to make assumptions about the results of your survey in new ways. So they're usually short answer questions. So make sure that after you've written all of your questions, you double check. Make sure that none of your survey questions ask 2 questions at the same time. Okay, so an example of that would be, do you have a membership to Costco or Sam's Club, and how many times do you visit Costco or Sam's Club each year? So these are close-ended questions. However, you're either first you're asking a yes or no question, and then you're asking a question of and like to answer in a number. So there's really 2 questions in one, and you would need to break those in half in order to essentially split them up, make that 2 separate questions, which would be fine to do. Another example is, do you like chicken and turkey? Okay, so this is complicated because if someone says yes, they're saying they like chicken and turkey. And if someone says no, then they're saying they don't like chicken or turkey. And what if they like chicken but not turkey? Or what if they like turkey but not chicken? Or what if sometimes they like chicken but they never like turkey? And it's so complicated. So you just want to make sure that you aren't asking a question where you have actually 2 questions within one answer choice, if that makes sense. And of course, you just want to make sure that they're worded clearly and effectively. And I've linked you here to a resource that talks about some other things to consider when writing survey questions. I'm going to give you guys so many resources for writing survey questions. I don't think that you need to read every single one. I do not expect you all to be survey experts. We haven't spent any lengthy amount of time talking about how to write a survey except for the instructions within this assignment sheet. So we're going to do the best that we can. Really, it's about whatever information you get from this survey, can you reflect that information in a report? I care much more about that than your questions being perfectly doctoral level survey research questions. If that's something you're interested in doing, you will take lots of classes in the future on how to do that effectively. And I do not have the credentials to explain all of that to you, trust me. So make sure you also double check your survey answer options to ensure that none of them have overlapping answer choices. And make sure you've exhausted all possible answers. You want to think about in providing answers, are you giving everyone the option? Okay, so the best example I have of that is if you're going to include like a demographic question and you have a question on ethnicity. So, are you providing all possible ethnicity choices? And are you also providing maybe an other box so that someone can fill in if there is something very specific that you did not include or they would like to identify in a different way than how you've written? You also might consider having options that say prefer not to answer. Now, I don't necessarily recommend prefer not to answer options on every single question of all 8 of those close-ended questions, because if you get a survey that everyone has just said preferred not to answer on the whole thing, not everyone, but if every question has said that, then you are getting extremely skewed response rates, because actually that's not telling you that much about the information you want to know. It's telling you that someone doesn't want to take your survey. So they should have just not taken your survey in the first place instead of skewing your response rate information, because you have to calculate them into how many people responded to your survey. Okay, so once you have picked a topic, created a survey, now it's time to administer that survey. So I recommend taking a week to pick a topic and write your survey, and then, let people know. Please take it right away. The good thing is most people, if they get a survey and are going to take it, they will take it right away. I would check maybe on the 9th, and if you do not have very many responses, I would try to send it out again, remind people. You don't want to wait too long because you do still have to look at the survey results and kind of figure them out. Now, with that being said, depending on how you use, like what you use to distribute your survey, which I'm going to recommend Google Forms, but depending on what you use and depending on your reach, I don't know, but what if some of you got like 6,000 survey results? Are you going to be able to sift through all of that, make sense of it within a day and then write a report on it? Probably not. So if you're like, wow, I'm an Instagram influencer and I can reach 1 million people, you just probably don't want to do that though, for the purposes of our time frame, because this is a super fast semester. So I do suggest using Google Drive Forms to collect your, to create your survey, administer your survey, and collect the data, because people can use that anonymously. You have instant access to answers, so you don't have to keep paper copies. You just go to the same page where you created your survey, and then you click on responses, and it'll tell you how many responses you have, and it will tell you, it'll give you like cute little pie charts and graphs or whatever of all the responses that you got. You can look at them as a whole, so collectively, or you can look at them individually to see what each person responded in what way. And I think that it makes it so much easier. You don't really have to do any math yourself when you are aggregating the data. I've got a couple of tutorials here linked for you guys. First, how to create one as a website, a website that just gives you reading version, and then there's a YouTube tutorial. And there's so much out there. So feel free to use Google and YouTube to say, how do I use Google Forms? You don't have to use Google Forms. SurveyMonkey is available, although I think some people are saying that to read your results, you have to purchase SurveyMonkey. I've never used it. I like Google Forms just fine. You can also go old school. You can send an email questionnaire to people. You can walk around with a piece of paper. Please be careful. I don't really encourage you to walk around with a piece of paper, because that might put you in too close of proximity to people for this whole COVID thing, and then also just, stranger danger. So keep that in mind. I definitely just encourage you to do electronic surveying. Here's the thing, y'all. You guys are going to ask me this if I don't tell you. How many people do I have to give this survey to? I don't know. However many people you can. I recognize that there are limitations on this. Maybe you only really have access to 10 people, and maybe all 10 of those people will take your survey, and for your topic, that's enough people. I don't know. That doesn't sound like enough people, but I don't feel comfortable in requiring you have to, reach to 100 people or even 50. That would be great. That would be great if you could send your survey to 50 people, or, do those things people do on Facebook, like send my survey to your friends and to their friends, and, start just approximating how many people got your survey, and that's fine too. But, I just don't want to put that kind of pressure on you guys, because I think that it lends to creating false data, which is just if we're spending this whole semester talking about ethical business practices and writing, creating false data is not something that I want to tip you into. So I don't care how many people you survey. I care about how you report on your information. The more people you are able to survey that'll fit within whatever topic you're surveying. Okay, so for example, if you're surveying on makeup trends, and you have a whole group of elderly family who don't use any makeup at all, you might not necessarily include them on surveys because maybe they don't know anything about makeup trends if they're not even using makeup. So sometimes, it's not about the numbers, it's about the quality of the data that you're getting anyway. So once you've created your survey, you can also share it with me. I'll share it with the class if you want me to boost your survey results. Again, if they're outside of your topic, then you don't have to do that. And if you want me to share it with any of my personal communities outside of work, let me know. I will do that as well. I have no problem doing that. Just we'll probably discuss that via email just to confirm in writing that you're fine with me doing that. You don't have to put your name on your survey as you're distributing it either. You only have to put your name on the document you submit to me through the LMS. So keep that in mind. If you want your survey to be created anonymously while people are filling it out, you have every right to do that. Collect your survey results. Again, Google Forms is a great thing to look at your survey results. You can look at some examples online, and then write your data report. So I think that this is the thing that matters the most to me. So I'm trying to give you a breakdown for your report that makes the most sense and helps you just kind of chunk it out, because I think if we don't chunk out this project in steps, it becomes very overwhelming and almost hard to manage in our heads in order to achieve. So there's going to be 4 paragraphs. Paragraph 1, I want you to explain the purpose of your survey. Like, what were you trying to get? What information did you want? Explain how it was administered. Did you create it on Google Forms? Did you send it on Facebook? Did you email all your grandmas? Explain how many people the survey was given to. Again, if it was something that was like distributed through social media and you have no idea, that's fine. Just explain that in your paragraph. And then tell me how many people responded to the survey. You should have an exact number on this. Give this as a percentage in terms of response rate if you are able to. Now, if you have no idea how many people the survey was sent to and you got 25 people to respond, you don't know if that's a 1% response rate or if that's a 100% response rate. So it's fine to just say, I had 25 responses. You can say I in this, by the way. Totally fine. Now, in paragraph 2, I want you to objectively report on the information collected in your 8 close-ended questions. So tell me what you learned from those questions, and don't provide any subjective interpretation of that information. Just give me the info. Do the same thing in paragraph 3, but report on those open-ended questions. So paragraph 2 is quantitative data and paragraph 3 is qualitative data. I want to know kind of what information did you get. You do not have to, I don't want you to like copy and paste every word of your open-ended questions. I want you to read it and give me the information. I want you to paraphrase, but I want you to do it objectively. Okay. Then in your last paragraph, I want to see your subjective interpretation of the information. So what do the survey's results suggest about your topic, right? I might not have objectively read those words or asked questions about that specific bit of information within my survey, but I can interpret or analyze my survey to come up with like a blanket statement of what I learned, or a couple of blanket statements based on the information that I got from my survey. So I want you to try and do that in paragraph 4. If you're not sure at any point, you guys know what to do. Email me, I will help you. All right, so how to format your submission. I want 3 pages. There might be more than 3 pages, and I recognize that. So I want an APA cover page, that's page 1. I want page 2 to be your data report. I would like you to keep it at 1 page. If it needs to span onto a second page, that's fine, but do not make that data report more than 2 pages. I will only read the first 2. You do not need references or citations. Just double space it and give me paragraphs. And then page 3 or whatever, the last pages of your document, some surveys might be more than 1 page. I want a copy of your blank survey. I do not want your responses. Don't give them to me. I don't want them. If you wrote your survey in Google Forms, just type it up on a document at the last page. Just type the questions up and the answer choices. I want to see them. You can use this checklist, but it basically goes through, this is a rubric. It's also a checklist. It goes through everything that I'm going to be looking for. And you guys know what to do. If you have any questions, please send me an email. I am happy to troubleshoot any of the issues that you're having from step one all the way to the end.